We are on the precipice of Roborock's brand new flagship core robot cleaner, the Saros 20, which was revealed earlier this year at CES, and boy has it got some incredible specs. We've been testing it over the past few weeks and taking a look at some of its more impressive functions, such as the insane 36,000 pascals of suction, the most I've ever seen in a robot vacuum, and the fact that it can also climb several steps in elevation to cross thresholds and traverse your home in a way that no other robot can do with its go-go gadget legs. Now, I've recently spoken about how brands seem to be focusing on refining existing technology when it comes to robot vacuum cleaners this year. It does seem that this year, that instead of adding those wacky features to see what works, so far they're doubling down on the zany features they introduced in last year's models, refining and improving them from their original design. And it would seem that that is just what Roborock have done with the Saros 20. Perhaps one of the more experimental features the Saros 10 had was its traversal technology. I mean, it was one of the very few robots to have a retractable nav hat that could lower itself into the body when it wanted to go under obstacles, meaning that it could shrink down to fit under gaps as small as 7.8 centimeters. The 20 has improved this, not by much, but it can now fit through gaps as low as 7.95 centimeters. And it's achieved this through the removal of the nav hat completely. And although that isn't a huge change, by removing the nav hat and getting rid of the LDS navigation system, which is that typical spinning turret type lidar, they've now implemented something called 3TOF vision, which is a form of solid state lidar. And this is generally considered a much more accurate form of lidar, which can create 3D point clouds of objects without the need of any rotating parts, which offers a clearer and more accurate and generally more reliable experience, given that A, it can grab data about what it can see in front of it much faster because it's not waiting for the lidar to spin around, and B, because it's not spinning around, there's less to go wrong. And being solid state, it's much less prone to breakdown with extended usage over time. But this change in the vision system is a drop in the ocean compared to what I think is the golden refinement for the traversal, and that's the adapter lift technology. In the Saros 10, this was a system by which the robot could raise itself up off the floor slightly to allow it the ability to cross thresholds up to 4 centimeters in total for semi-stepped thresholds. This was experimental to an extent, but I'll say now that it was far more than a gimmick, because it's one feature that proved very useful in more ways than one, especially when it comes to high pile rugs, which a lot of robots can't actually get up. But let's be real here for a second, it wasn't huge. I mean, 4 centimeters in total with a 3 centimeter max single step is actually pretty small still, and limited really, like I said, to those high pile rugs. Well, the Saros 20 can go higher. It can now tackle a 4.5 centimeter height on the first layer, and then a second step further at 4.3 centimeters, totaling thresholds of 8.8 centimeters, which is significantly higher than the Saros 10. And the way it does this is comically good, because it's basically got stilts. When it comes up to a step, it can do exactly what the Saros 10 could and hoist itself upwards on its own wheels, but if it needs to go higher, it sprouts these tiny little extra legs that look as if they've skipped a leg day at the gym. But despite that, they can still squat lift the whole robot into the air, flipping around the wheel to act almost as a hinge point to lift it up the second step. It looks incredible and visually reminds me of those Salvador Dali elephants with the long spindly legs. That's how it's proportioned anyway. But it is a genius little development and a superb refinement of that adapter lift technology to take it to the next level. I mean, at this point, it's one step away from being able to climb a set of stairs. I think the Daleks would have probably benefited from this technology. Anyway, but what this additional traversal and lift means is that it can get away with pretty much anywhere in your home, tackling some significant obstacles that might be in the way, including things like chair legs or table legs. But it also means that it's one of the best robots for vacuuming too, because it can lift itself right up and get onto some significantly high pile rugs. Now, I don't have any high pile rugs myself, which are not really suitable for living in a country house with 2 muddy children and 2 muddy dogs. But according to the spec sheet, it can work on pile up to 3 centimetres high, which is ridiculous because no one has had 3 centimetre pile since the 1960s shag pad. But let's say you were indeed still stuck in the 1960s. The fact that it can work on high piled rugs would be a godsend. And what aids it even more is the suction, which, as I said at the start, is 36,000 pascals. To put that into perspective, most of the last generation's robots max out across the industry at around 15,000, and even that is an extremely rare figure. So for Roborock to over double this is absolutely mental, and I can say without a shred of a doubt, it makes a huge difference in pulling out all of the ghastly compacted dead skin and hair in your carpets. Ugh. Oh, and actually, on the subject of hair, the main brush is a split dual brush, which I think is going to be very popular on robots this year. But as I've said before, it seems like it's the best form of detangling main brush that I've come across, pulling all of the hair down towards the taper in the middle to be pulled into the onboard dustbin. The side brush helps this, of course, like they normally do, and this has also had a new design, which is now arched to encourage hair to sweep off it rather than get wrapped around it, which plagues the standard Mercedes tri-3-pronged style. Now, a returning feature of this side brush is the flexi arm, which allows it to essentially reach out to the side and be more effective at edge cleaning. It makes it a lot more efficient than those keeping the brush closer to the body, although I am surprised that Roborock has still chosen to include only a single side brush rather than a dual side brush. I don't think it makes a massive difference from testing, but I can't help but feeling that dual brushes are slightly more effective. But I guess if it works, it works. Why change what's not broken? Now, this front brush isn't the only thing that's on its own arm. When it comes to the mopping, this is where the Saros has also seen a massive upgrade. The Saros 10 had this vibrating plate style mopping system, which really was quite old tech. It was on some of the very early robots that came out, and it was okay, but objectively it's my least favourite mopping system. But it did have a tiny dinky little edge mopper, which was a novel approach to edge cleaning, but it didn't really cut the cake for me. The style on the Saros 20 is much more effective, with 2 large rotating mopping pads, which do a far better job at cleaning rather than a single vibrating plate system. But as you know, it's still not my favourite style of mopping. I had hoped to have seen a roller mop style on the Saros 20, which is my favourite type of tech in robots, but I can't ignore there are 2 massive benefits for this style of pad mopping over roller mops, which the Saros 20 exemplifies. And the first one is edge cleaning. Roller mops have a critical flaw in that the very edge of your rooms end up with a line all the way around the edge that remains uncleaned, which is the nature of roller mops. That's because they're ultimately held on either side, sides which contain gearing and clips and motors, and it doesn't matter how slim those clips and motors and gears are made, you're always getting that thin line of uncleaned floor. With the Saros 20, its pads already extend to the edge of the robot, which is a great start. But to make it even more efficient, it uses the same flex arm technology that's on the front brush to extend the mop out and clean right the way up against the wall. So although it's not my favourite, you can't deny that it certainly has an edge over other styles. And yes, that absolutely was an intended pun. Now, the second benefit that this style of mopping, the mopping pads, has over the roller mop style is all to do with the base station. If you've got the robot set to vacuum only and you don't want to mop in the same cycle, the station is actually capable of removing the mop pads entirely, giving you a peace of mind that you're irreplaceable 100-year-old Persian rug isn't about to be wrecked by mopping it. With roller mops, this would be simply impractical, and I don't think it's even achievable from an engineering standpoint unless the station was absolutely massive, because it would need to somehow pick the bloody thing up and pull the mop up a spindle that holds it on. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible, but it's certainly going to be rare to see that, and it's something that I personally haven't seen yet. But this allows this robot to have a much better vacuuming only experience and have it automate itself rather than you having to manually turn off certain things and manually remove certain features. It can do it all itself, and that is a huge bonus of this type of mopping system. But this, of course, isn't the only interesting refinement of the base station. It's now capable of washing the mops with 100 degrees of water, and this is extremely important for killing all of the bacteria that you mop up. Many competing devices only heat up to about 60 degrees, which is okay, but according to the men in white coats, that only kills about 90% of the bacteria. Washing the mops with 100-degree water means it will kill 99.99% of bacteria. Now, it'll also fill the onboard robot's reservoir with hot water too for cleaning, which is an interesting feature returning from the Saros 10, but it's also a welcome addition because it makes the upgraded mopping on this even more effective because you're mopping with warm water. I think the Saros range might actually be the only range I've tested that do this as well, fill up with warm water. But this is definitely the first time I've seen a robot base station heat the temperature of the water up to 100 degrees. And although it's an unseen benefit, it is something that I think every robot mopping system should have. Now, there is another thing that I think every robot cleaner should have, or in this case, shouldn't have, and that is bags. The station of the Saros 20 unfortunately still uses a dust bag system to collect the dirt when the robot returns into the base station, much like 99% of the industry, which is starting to frustrate me a little. This is, of course, no criticism directly to the Saros 20. Every other robot vacuum coming out at the moment and over the past decade also uses bags. And I get why it promotes accessory sales and buying further bags, but let's face it, who buys a robot vacuum and then buys the OEM bags when there are, generally speaking, cheaper ones on Amazon? No one. So for me, I would just love to see a brand take a step up and engineer a bagless system, and by doing that, I'm pretty certain they capture most of the bloody market. So, Roborock, if you're watching, all eyes are on you. Interestingly though, there's one feature emission on the Saros 20 that was on the Saros 10, and that's the riser side brush. The main brush still raises up and down to avoid sweeping wet spills and contaminating it, as does the mops when going onto the carpet if you didn't want to remove them at the base station. But unlike the Saros 10, the Saros 20 can't lift its side brush out of the way. But everything else to do with the Saros 20 has just seen such a massive improvement. Roborock have taken everything that made the Saros 10 good, improved it, tuned it and refined it to this really tight product. They've even refined the price. Now, when the Saros 10 first released, it had an RRP of £1,499. Like everything online, there was always a discount, but if we take the RRP alone at face value, despite having a ton of upgrades, this is launching with an RRP of £1,309. So it's great to see that not only have Roborock improved on the technology as much as they have done, but they've also lowered the base price significantly. Now, the asterisk was because, like always, there's big discounts available during the launch period, along with a bunch of free kit for ordering early. So if you did have your eyes on the Saros 20 from CES earlier this year, now at its launch, at its lowest price, that you might get for a little while, is not a bad time to get hold of one. So I will leave a QR code there. You can check out the current price or check the link in the description as well. And again, you'll be able to see what the discount is that they're offering. But overall, what I really like about the Saros 20 is what I've said through this episode, that Roborock haven't tried reinventing the wheel with this one. They've almost doubled down on their best technology to improve it, all whilst reducing the price, which for me sets a real example for the rest of the industry. So, well done Roborock. The Saros 20 is a great piece of kit.